You're listening to the Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm your host, Michelle Fernandez, and welcome back to the show. I am so excited for today because joining me is Ashley Gordon. She is the founder of the Quantum Coaching Certification Program. And as a quantum coach herself, she specializes in helping female coaches master their craft so they can provide life-changing transformations to their clients. Ashley is the creator of the Badass Manifestor brand and podcast, and is a certified success coach, hypnotherapist, and Master NLP practitioner. You are in for a treat because today is all about quantum coaching. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Traffic and Conversion Show, where it's all about helping online entrepreneurs amplify their content, build their influence, and convert their leads into sales to grow a profitable business and life they absolutely love. Now, let's get this party started. All right, well, welcome back to the show. Ashley Gordon is joining me. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited that you're here. We did a little chatting before this podcast started, so I'm super excited. Now, I met Ashley in your Quantum Coach Academy, and OMG, it was fire, right? Totally fire. And I was even telling you, I think I'm going to go through it again, like to refresh myself, get re-energized. I mean, it really has all the tools that I needed to become a world-class coach, right? The container that you hold is absolutely beautiful. It's like, wow, like just to see like transformations and everybody going, it's like, just thank you so much for creating like a coach certification that is beyond any expectation I had, for sure.
Wow, that is the best compliment I could ever receive. Thank you so much. That means the world to me.
You are welcome. And again, thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about you, who you serve, what you do, all that good stuff.
Yes. Well, I am the queen of big coach energy. I like to help coaches, whether you are brand spanking new baby coach, just starting, or someone like Michelle, where you're super established in your business. You've been helping people for years, just up leveling your craft. So that is who I serve. I serve coaches who really want to embody and learn to create a transformation through their clients that is just quantum, at a quantum level. To keep it as brief as possible, I mean, I was a jack of all trades. I worked in real estate. I did so many different things. And it was through yoga that I found the love of transformation. Like I saw people transform. I saw the facilitator work their magic on helping people really work through their limitations and step into something that they really wanted to create. And I was just mesmerized by watching the process of transformation. And it led me to coaching. And through coaching and through getting a million certifications, it led me to meeting Jen Casey, who I know you work with Jen Casey on a very, intimate level. Mm-hmm. She's been in your vortex for quite some time. And meeting her at a coach training was the best thing that ever happened to me. She's such a brilliant human, and she really always helped me try and niche down, because at that point I literally was like, my client is everybody. I am a manifestation coach. I am literally for men and women and everybody else in between. Like, I had no niche. I had no clear message. It wasn't until I was asked to speak at one of her live events that she asked me, she was like, what do you want to speak about? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. She's like, money manifestation, this, that. I was like, actually, it's a room full of coaches. I am so passionate about helping people become amazing coaches. And at that time, I didn't have a certification. It wasn't even a blip on my radar. I realized in the industry, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but like so many people are all about building their business and growing their marketing, which is so awesome and so important. But if you are not an amazing coach, you're not going to get very far. Like, you have to be really good at what you do. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to them about. And so that night, before I was going to speak and teach it, her and I put together this framework. And it was like a beautiful mind. And we're scribbling, we're writing, we're like just having this like a very expansive session together. And that was the start of the Quantum Coaching Academy. I literally taught it the next day, just super raw, unrehearsed, unpracticed. And the coaches were having so many breakthroughs. And two of those coaches hired me privately to teach them the method on a deeper level, which was like the beta round of the certification that stands today. So that was kind of how it all started.
That's
And
amazing. Well,
it's
wait, how long ago was that?
okay. That's what I was going to say. So that was October 2019.
Wow.
No. It was October 2020. I'm sorry. No. When was the pandemic? It was October 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I launched it at the very start of the pandemic, the first beta round ever. And I
Wow.
was like, who's going to buy this? It's pandemic. Like, who's going to join? But like, it sold out. I had 20 seats and I ended up having 26 students.
That's amazing. And now?
And now last round we had 50 students. This past round we had 34 students. And now we're on track for 50 again, I would say, for this next round, which is, it's crazy.
It is crazy because I kind of knew part of your story, but I didn't realize it was so quick.
Super
So
quick. Like in a year and a half. Well, how long ago was that now? Is that 2 years? October
yes.
to October to October. So in 2 years, we've scaled it from, well, that was a blip of an idea in October 2019. I didn't launch it until May.
Right.
So months later. And then since May till now, we're internationally accredited with the ICF. So we are ICF accredited, which is a huge accomplishment. And we're also a full-blown NLP certification now. I don't even know if you knew that, but that's a new feature that we have. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, yes. And in my brain, like all these thoughts are going through my mind. Like you totally went all in, right? Because you also mentioned that in that October thing, you weren't even certified or something. You just had these thoughts. So what you took yourself and then went through all your stuff and then put it out there for everybody else to do, that is quantum.
It is quantum. Thank you. At that point, I was super certified. I had so many certifications, but I never had a certification, meaning like I didn't have QCA yet at that point. The thought of creating a certification at that point had never even crossed
your mind.
My mind.
I got you.
That's when it all kind of was like, it was like a download of like, just like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, it was very scary because it was basically leaving the business that I had created and basically starting over in a way, totally pivoting my message, my marketing, like everything.
But how cool is it? I know for so many of us, and myself included, at different times, it's like, well, I know all these things. I have all these things. And it's like, how do I make it something? Right.
Yeah.
So what was, and I guess it was that time when you sat down and really thought about what it is or who you wanted to serve, that really kind of put it together for then you to have a clearer path, a clearer vision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh. I mean, one of the things that made it super clear was because I had so many certifications, I saw so many of the gaps. And for a majority of my coaching career at that point, I was working with so many people one-on-one, so many one-on-one clients where I really didn't have space to create anything else at that point. So I had started to develop, I was looking back, I was like, I clearly have my own method, like of coaching that I've developed through years of working with people one-on-one. I have my own method of working through belief systems. I have my own method of breaking through, limiting thoughts and pulling together my own, what I was doing was like a really good way for me to kind of like lay the foundation. For what it is. Does that make sense?
Totally. I love this. Well, I'm so glad that you did this. And can I be honest? I joined QCA for two reasons, right? First and foremost, I had set the intention for 2021 to really like look inward, like look at myself and figure out ways that I can become more self-aware and also more unstuck, like faster. Because I felt like I was doing pretty well, but there was always something that, okay, well, you always create your thoughts or your stories in your head, but it's like, okay, I've been at this for a while. I should be here, or I should be doing these things. Like, what was that was holding me back? So that was one reason. And then the second reason is I really wanted to learn the tools and the strategies that I needed to properly coach my clients. So even though I'm not like a life coach, or I don't really consider myself a coach, I'm more like a marketing strategist, I guess I would say. However, in my job, I was finding like, okay, I had to like be everybody's cheerleader or talk people down when they were freaking out about their launch or whatever it was. And I needed to know like how I could best deal with them without just telling them this. It's kind of like helping them. What is that? Like you teach them how to fish or don't give them fish, teach whatever. It was kind of like that so they can too feel empowered or more confident in their business.
Yes.
Because I was finding a lot of people were just kind of, I felt that they wanted me to make all the decisions. And I'm like, hold on, this is not my business. This is your business. And I want you to feel good about these decisions or feel somewhat knowledgeable. So when we're talking about this, what kind of, like, let's talk about that. Like, what have you found like with different people doing these like coaching versus telling you what to do?
Yes. Good question. Good question. And I love that quote. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for the night. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for his lifetime.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes.
That's a good one. The biggest mistakes I see are just what you said, like telling someone what to do, to me falls in the bucket of advice giving. And I think a lot of people think that coaching is advice giving, which is totally understandable that people would think, oh, I'm just going to like tell people what to do. The problem with that is that it just doesn't work, right? You can tell someone what to do at a behavioral level, but change really takes place at an identity belief system level. So when we're only coaching and working with behaviors of like, let's just say that, you're my coach and I want to stop, and I'm telling you, I'm scrolling every morning and I'm scrolling every night and I want to stop scrolling. And you're like, well, that's easy. Just leave your phone in your office for the night and then you won't scroll. Right. But there's so much more there, right? There's beliefs there. It's more than the behavior of just scrolling, right? So it's like learning how to work with things beyond the behavioral level are really, really important. Learning how to work with the subconscious mind, for example, to help really get to the root cause of these circumstances and, challenges that people have is so important. So that's one, advice giving. The other one is, there's more. So being an avoider, like a lot of coaches are not equipped to work with trauma or with deeper emotions that come up in a session. So sometimes, you might be working on one thing of like, okay, so this is the strategy for your business and this is like what's happening. But then what happens when they're in the middle of a launch and it's not going the way they want to? There's really no strategy for that. Like, sure, you can do little tweaks here and there, but it's really about helping them understand their emotions, like what's coming up for them, what do they need to work through, what's being shown to them. And there is a craft and strategy on how to work with emotions and belief systems and triggers that come up. And so not to avoid those emotional things that come up in coaching, or if someone's like, I just don't feel good enough in this launch. And you're like, okay, let's work on the strategy piece over here. Hold up. You just said you didn't feel good enough. Let's talk about that. Is that something you're willing to dive deeper into?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another one. And then another one could be like filling the space, just talking too much, like I'm doing right now. Just filling up all the space so your client doesn't actually have space to discover within themselves. So I'll pause there for a minute and let you.
Yeah, it's so funny. Okay, so for two things. Number one, the trauma part. So the reason why I was first thinking, this was before I got into coaching with you, was more like, because I would hear in my group coaching containers in this, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know how to deal when somebody starts crying, or, when you could see it, it's a trauma. Like, I'm not a therapist. That's what I kept telling myself. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a therapist. And so when that happens, like, how do you define that to be like, okay, I can coach them out of this, or how do I realize what's something deeper that, okay, wait, you do need to see a more professional help, I guess?
Yeah. Great question. The most basic way I can explain it is that therapy, it helps people that are dysfunctional in certain areas of their life become functional. And coaching takes people that are functioning in their life to a whole nother level.
Mm.
And one of the amazing gifts in our program is Jenna, who, if you
Mm-hmm.
listen to Michelle's podcast, you've heard her episode. Jenna Teague is a psychotherapist, and she is part of our team. So we talk a lot about this trauma aspect. We're very trauma informed in that way, and how to decipher in those moments like what someone needs. And in a group coaching setting, when someone has emotion come up, like part of our method, as you know, is release, rewire, receive. So like if you're watching a client and they're getting emotional, there's obviously something there that they need to let go of, that they need to
Mm-hmm.
process through and actually release. And how do we release anything? Think about it. If you have to go to the bathroom, you release it in the bathroom, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and why is that any different than the beliefs that we think or the thoughts that we have? So knowing how to hold that space for someone when they're having a release. Sometimes there's nothing that needs to be said, but it's more just like an energy of like, I got you. We're all holding you. We're all supporting you right now in what's coming up. And just like we talked about earlier, sometimes it's not even about trying to fix that. There's nothing to fix about that. So that's another thing is we get into fixer mode. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to fix about those emotions. Emotions are beautiful and perfect, and they need to be released and
Mm-hmm.
processed and worked through. So knowing how to hold space is just like sending so much love in that moment.
It's like even in this conversation, and these are things that I've discovered about myself. So like I was always brought up that we don't cry. So no matter, like, I always had to be like, I know it doesn't sound like it, but like this tough, cookie, if you will, where it
Yeah.
was like, I didn't cry. And I remember my husband would always tell me like, you're so not a girl because like, you don't cry. Or like when I would get my period, it wasn't like I was all like, cause I like learned how to control that very quickly. Cause that was not something that was totally, I mean, it wasn't like my parents were super strict, but it was very like, you have to be strong. So when you said the thing about shoving down versus releasing, that's what I found myself doing. It's almost like, well, this is not the way I want to feel. Let me just think positive thoughts and then kind of move forward, even though I know it's there. Right. So it was always like that pink elephant in the room.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Wow. Wow. Such a
and
good awareness.
yes. And that's what I'm saying. This year has been like, now certain things happen. Right. And then I'm like, wait, why aren't I freaking out about this? Like, why aren't I super sweaty and nervous? Why aren't I in the bed laying down under the covers because I can't deal? Like, it's almost like I'm acknowledging it and moving forward. And that, like, it's such a good feeling to, I guess, understand it better, to be able to function better, like to be working along, knowing that all the efforts that you're putting into something, it's going to happen in its own time, right? I can't
Yes.
even tell you like the difference. Even my husband was like, oh, so you seem to be whatever. And I'm like, I know. It's just, and it wasn't an overnight thing, but it happened so that I didn't even know it was happening. Does that
Yep.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because I feel like self-awareness to that level of what you're explaining and being able to work with your emotions is truly a moment by moment practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a moment by moment thing. And sometimes we don't even notice it in those moments, but sometimes we do. And we're like, okay, I like the way I handled that, and
Mm-hmm.
you look back and you're like, wow, a year went by and I'm different.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Totally.
so powerful. I think
It
that so
is.
many people can resonate with just feeling like they have to be strong and they're not allowed to cry. I'm curious, have you cried lately as of
I
late?
have. I have. I went through over the past few months, there was something going on. Well, actually, two things that were going on. And it was almost like in certain, how do I say this? In certain circumstances, like I tend to go to the strength, right? So like when my son was like 5, he needed this like emergency surgery. And I remember being super strong and like just hanging in there. And it was like when he went in that surgery room, like it all just came out. Right. So it's almost like I have this thing where it's like I stay strong for the thing and then it's like a breakdown. Right. Well,
Yeah.
I did have a breakdown after all this happened, but then I thought, okay, with every breakdown becomes a breakthrough. But I think because I allowed it to come out versus hanging on to it,
Yeah.
which would only like linger these horrible thoughts, feelings, or whatever was going on, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, what we're talking about is so deep and so profound because most people don't realize, but everything that you're holding on to is only creating dis-ease in your body. So a lot of people will gain weight because they're holding on to stuff, or a lot of people will get sick. I know one time I was holding on to a lot that I wasn't speaking my truth on, and I actually manifested Hashimoto's. And it was just like, and I knew it. I knew it. I mean, afterwards, I figured it out, but like, I knew I wasn't speaking my truth, but I was still holding it in and holding it in. And you can feel when you're holding it in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not comfortable all the time, but sometimes it's the comfort zone that people are used to. And I really love normalizing emotions because I mean, no emotion is good or bad. And it's changed my life too, just to be able to feel and not be like happy all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just truly like, and I guess I always thought, and even more so recently, I found myself being a little resistant to some things where it's almost like I just don't want to deal with that anymore because I know what it makes me feel like. And I don't want to go backwards and feel that way. And then I'm like, but wait a minute, if I don't get through this, then I can't get to that next level. Because then now I'll be stuck in whatever level that I'm at now, or because I know I'm not dealing with this other thing.
Totally.
You know,
Wow. Look at you.
I know. I'm so proud of myself. And it's all thanks to you. Ready to finally crack the code to increase your sales conversions? Join me for the Funnel Fix Challenge, where you can learn how to take your funnel from poorly performing to highly converting. In the challenge, you'll discover the 4 essential elements to a highly converting funnel, the truth about what actually goes into an effective funnel, and what to put in yours that's most likely missing, why niching doesn't actually work and what does, so you can attract the right person at the right time. Then master your message so you can sell out your offer using your content without begging for customers, using sleazy sales tactics, and uncover the metrics that matter so you can measure performance the fastest and most efficient way possible. Go to funnelfixchallenge.com and save your seat today. It starts soon. I can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's talk about the whole being quiet and holding space. So I have an issue with that because I cannot, like, first of all, I talk way too much. And also the quiet makes me very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So when you did that, and you're so good at that, where you just sit and you're like, I see you, I feel you, and you just wait for the person to come in, right? And bring up whatever they want to talk. What would you tell somebody that's similar to me that doesn't feel like so they don't have to feel like they need to fill that space with unnecessary words?
Well, I would pose a question at first, which would be, inquiry for you if you feel that way as well. And that is, what makes you so uncomfortable with the silence? What comes up for you? And you don't have to answer that now, but just think about that for yourself, because I've had to ask myself the same question. I once had a mentor who was like very woo-woo and very spiritual, and he was like, okay, so we're just gonna it was on Zoom, and he was like, so we're just gonna hold space for each other and just be with each other for a moment. Are you able to do that? And I was like, I think so. And it was just silence, and I was just like so awkward and so uncomfortable, and I'm like, there was so much coming up for me. It was like I felt like I was being seen, but really it was also about me allowing myself to see him. I don't know, it was like a really weird thing. So I feel you on that. So ask yourself that question, and then again, this is a moment by moment practice. Mm-hmm. Notice when it comes up, when there's an opportunity for you to just be quiet. One of these really cool acronyms that I learned in one of my first coaching programs, it said WAIT, WAIT. Mm-hmm. And it stands for, why am I talking? And I'm like, okay, so just be quiet and be with that feeling. And instead of making it about you, focus all of the energy on the client.
Mm, love that. Love that. Okay. I'm going to make my mental notes for that.
Yes.
Okay. So while we're talking about people who talk too much, like me, what other mistakes are coaches making?
I would say these are the top ones. I think if there was one more, I would say it would be assumer. So if you are assuming that you know what's best based on what you've been through. So, for example, if you've had like a past of toxic relationships, um, and you're not in a healthy relationship and someone is sharing about their relationship, you might be assuming that their relationship is going to fail or not go well because that was your past. So you're assuming that what happened to you is going to happen to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So super limiting and not quantum at all, because quantum coaching essentially means that you are working in the field of unlimited possibilities and you're working from miracle consciousness with your clients. So
Love
anything
this.
is possible.
Mm-hmm. Anything is possible. And then even when you're talking about quantum and moving so quickly, is that what quantum also means? Like a quantum leap? Is that what you're looking at, or just with what you just described?
My definition of a quantum leap is that any shift that happens with your clients, whether it's big or small, is not bound by space or time. So it can happen in the moment that they're ready to have that shift. And what that does is once they make that energetic shift in the quantum field of unlimited possibilities, saying that anything is possible, it's opening up space for them to shift as quickly as possible into their next level of reality, into what they want to be creating in their reality. Does that make sense?
Totally, totally.
So a quantum shift can be a big moment of an aha or a small moment, and knowing that that is opening up this amazing field of possibility around you.
I love that. I
So
love that. Now, when we're talking about coaching, and once you start learning all these skills and strategies and tools, and you're like, yes, I got this, I'm learning. Um, Sometimes I've been with people who everything becomes coaching, right? It's like, I can't even have a personal conversation with you, hello, because you're coaching me. And even my husband, we've gone through so many, I drag him everywhere and make him go with me to all this stuff, because I think it's important for him to understand, and also selfishly, so I have somebody to ask stuff to. And so when I'm like, what do you think about this funnel or that? I want him to understand what I'm going through. And then,
totally.
so we can connect on different levels. But sometimes I have to tell him all right, I'm not looking for you to fix it or give me the answer. I'm just looking for you to listen to me. And then I have friends in this field or in the business world where it's literally we're just having a conversation and they're like, oh, but before you go, before we talk about that, can I ask you these things? And it's clearly these coaching questions.
Yeah.
So when do you know to turn it off, or if you're on the receiving end, what might you say?
It can be so challenging, because when you learn how to coach, you're like, okay, everyone needs this all the
Yes.
time. And with that, I will say that, there's certain times where I'll ask if someone's presenting something to me, I'll be like, okay, do you want my coaching hat or my friend hat? And you're just consciously asking what hat you want, they need. And then another thing is, I was just talking about this with a client right before this podcast, and her experience is she was on her own with her husband, and they just moved back in with her in-laws because they sold their house. And she's like, I'm struggling because I feel like everyone around me is in these limiting mindsets, and I see that I'm not in that mindset anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish that they could see it a different way. And I just wish that they don't have to think this way or believe these things. And something that I want everyone to remember is that every single person, whether or not you think that they should think that way or not, or that they could have a better life if they just let go of those belief systems or whatever you want to coach them on, but to trust that every single person is on their exact perfect path. Every single person is getting the beliefs that they need, are serving them to some capacity, even if you don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Their beliefs are serving them. help their soul evolve and give them what they need for the evolution of their soul. Like it's all unfolding perfectly. And can you trust that?
You said that so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I will tell you that is something that has taken me a minute to realize, right? So before I would get frustrated, and even before I knew about this whole coaching thing, I was like, gosh, I didn't understand it. Now I'm more empathetic or sympathetic or more understanding that, okay, they're in there, they're working on them, and it's not about me, right? Because a lot of times you turn that kind of directed towards you at times. I'm a lot less judgy and more
unconditional.
Yes, it's like I just understand it much better, and it takes a less toll on me, because there's every relationship that you have, there's something, right? And then it's like, okay, now I just know, like, all right, this is what it is, and I can kind of detach from it, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's beautifully said. Yeah, detaching from it is huge, huge, huge. And I would say a book that really, really helped me with this is called Conversations with God. I don't know if you've ever read it.
Mm-mm.
It's not like a religious book at all. It's very spiritual, and it's by Neil Donald Walsh. And it would just really open my eyes to what we're talking about and helped me just not be responsible for other people's experience in life and trust that they're getting the experience that they need. And all I can do is embody who I am and share my light. And if they want to join my bandwagon, great. And if not, then great. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And that is what I'm striving to be more. Like even with Jen, like we're such different vibes. Like I'm always like, go, 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 go. And when I talk to her, it just like brings me down. You know what I mean? And like, okay, I need to slow down to then come back up. Right. So it's like, we need this balance for ourselves and to serve other people better. I honestly feel.
Totally, totally, totally. And when you say bring you down, you mean like more grounded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Not like down, like womp
Yeah,
womp.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
Yeah.
knew that. I knew that. I felt that way.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh. Okay. So let's talk about the sign in the back. Big coach energy. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Big coach energy. To be as blunt as possible, it's about being the most confident coach in the room, like humbly being the most confident coach in the room and knowing that you could take someone through a transformation, knowing that you have the tools, that you are equipped to take someone through something that's so powerful for them, and own that you're really, really fucking good at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, how many times are we like in imposter syndrome, or can I really do this? And then it's kind of like secret code for I'm just scared.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So to even say like confident, like I struggle, I wouldn't say struggle as much anymore, but it's always like in my mind, I'm like, oh, because I want to learn this. So therefore I don't know now. But if I look at what I do know, or how I am able to help people, or help people maybe steps behind me, like you have to give yourself some credit for that. One of my business besties, she's always back and forth. And I'm like, today she showed me her sales page with all these testimonials. And I'm like, girl, why are we even having this conversation? Like, it's literally in black and white right in front of your face right now. And then she's like, you know what? Thank you for pointing that out for me, because I tend to forget it. I tend to only look at the negative stuff rather than to look at, what she is good at and how she is helping people and all this other good stuff.
Yeah, being able to own it, because that energy of owning it is like, it is that big coach energy. It's like really being the authority, really knowing that you've got it, but from a place of, not ego, but from a place of just wanting to help people. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like not doubting, like, okay, just so you're like, there's so many things you want to learn. There's so many things that I want to learn right now. I have so many interests happening, like new interests that I'm like, whoa, okay. I want to like learn how to garden, and I want to I just want to learn so many things, but I'm not putting myself down that I don't know enough now to start, or I don't know enough, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was honestly one of the things I thought about before I joined, I thought, oh, I can't coach somebody because I'm not certified or I don't have the proper tools, right? That's always something that I thought about. And then somebody once said to me, well, do you ever ask anybody if they have that? And I'm like, no, but I still felt the responsibility to have the right tools in place. Because it was like, I can get them so far. And then I felt like, well, now what? Right. So now I have the confidence to even help somebody go all the way through rather than stop. You know what I mean?
Follow through. Love that. It's true though. You don't need a certification to be a good coach. There's people that intuitively just know how to do it. Just like you already knew how to do it. And sometimes when you learn the skills and tools, you're like, oh, I do that. Oh, okay. I do that too. Okay, cool. And you just learn how to deepen it. It's all about deepening in the craft. So yeah.
And
super
walking through.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we dive into the next segment, do you have anything else you want to share?
I mean, if you're loving this conversation, like join us for Big Coach Energy Live. Which is we could talk about that later though. But
talk about it now.
It's a free event that's really dives deeper into what we're talking about right now. Literally, it's just deeper into the method. You'll learn so much, so many tools for your coaching craft just from this event. It's incredible. And you'll hear from past students about just like the mistakes that we're talking about and normalizing those and just like transcending those. And we're doing a segment on how to build an inclusive business, how to be an ally for the LGBTQ plus QIA plus community. How to set up your diversity, equity, inclusion values. There's just so much that we're teaching that it's going to be epic.
Yes, it's definitely jam-packed. We'll drop where you can find that in the show notes for sure. November
8th to the 11th.
Love it. Okay, it is time for Michelle's Hot Minute, okay?
Oh gosh.
I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions, so just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Don't worry, I see you like, no. Okay, I'm going to set my thing for a minute. Okay, ready?
All right.
Okay, what is, this is not rapid fire, but what is one fun fact about you?
I love to sing and dance all the time. Everything's a song. I don't know if that's a fun fact, but that's what's coming to me. Literally everything.
What was your first job?
My first job was scooping ice cream at age 14.
Are you an early bird or night owl?
Neither.
Well, what would be in between? Now I'm curious.
I mean, like this morning I woke up at almost 10 a.m. and I went to bed at like 10:30 last night. So
you do what feels good to you. Okay. Yeah. What's your guilty pleasure?
Ooh, my guilty pleasure is The Bachelor and Bachelorette. I'm obsessed with that show. I feel like if I wasn't married, I would go on the show.
What book are you currently reading?
I am currently reading It Starts with the Egg, which is a fertility book.
And where is your happy place?
The beach, 100%. I live by the beach. I love going to the beach and just soaking in the energy of the ocean and the sand.
Love it. That was so much fun. It wasn't as bad as you first thought. I could tell.
I love that you actually set an alarm.
I did. Because sometimes I could, like I said, I talk way too much. Okay. So I appreciate you so much, Ashley, for coming on the show today. Yay.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, so grateful.
Yeah. Okay. So where else can people find you besides Big Coach Energy Live?
Yeah. So we have the Facebook group, Big Coach Energy. I'm on Instagram at thequantum.coach. And that's pretty much like where I hang out the most, those two spots. So come hang out with me. I also have a podcast called Badass Manifester Podcast.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you once again, Ashley, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time, happy marketing.
There's never been a more crowded market in the online world, and every day you are constantly fighting the masses for attention of your ideal client. And we all know that in order to have a successful business is by keeping a steady flow of new leads and sales. And in order to get that, you need a steady flow of new followers to be able to build new relationships and make connections. Getting a steady flow of new followers in such a crowded market is easier than you think. I've created a simple strategy strategy that will help you cut through the noise and connect with your ideal clients quickly and effectively so they will want to work with you. It's all about connecting and converting new leads in 45 seconds and turning those eternal scrollers into paying clients in just 45 seconds. Whether you're still growing organically or ready to pour some money into paid advertising, this simple strategy will bring in new leads who are warmed up and ready to hand over their cash. If you're tired of wasting time and money on trying to stand out, then you're going to want to grab my guide at themichellefernandez.com/45 to help you stand out from the crowd so you can scale with ease.